Hello students, in today's lecture we will be discussing the structure of the female reproductive organ, and that is the gynoecium. We'll talk about the different type of carpels, the locules that are formed in the ovary, the different type of ovary based on its position relative to the other floral parts, and the different types of placentation. So let's start with the structure of gynoecium. So gynoecium is the female reproductive part. It is also called as pistil or carpel. So here I have made the structure of carpel or pistil or gynoecium. So it has three important regions. Stigma, style, and ovary. Inside the ovary, these small globules are called as the ovules. This is the thalamus. So first we'll understand the role of the individual structures. So stigma, the terminal part is called as the stigma. It is sticky. It can have hairy structure or it can be smooth. Basically, it is the landing platform for the pollen grain. For pollen grain. Then we have the style, the long, elongated, slender structure, the stalk is the style. The style connects the ovary and stigma. It is the region from where the pollen tube passes through. So the pollen tube passes through the style. Then the most important part, the basal swollen part, is called as the ovary. Inside the ovary, we have the ovules. So after fertilization, the ovary is transformed into the fruit and the ovules are transformed into the seed. And this is the base. Below it is the thalamus, and this is the complete structure of carpel. So in a flower, there can be one carpel or more than one. So with every plant species, the number of carpel, it varies. If there is only one carpel, it is called as monocarpellary. For example, P. If there are more than one carpel, we call it as multicarpellary. For example, tomato. Okay, so one carpel is called as monocarpellary. If there is two carpel, we call it as dicarpellary, and so on. So if there is more than one, we call it as multicarpellary. Now if there are more than one carpel, there is a chance that those carpel will either be free or they may be fused. So the next part is that I will talk about if there is more than one carpel, how many locules are formed of it, and what is that if the carpels they are free and if the carpels they are fused, what they are called. So now we'll talk about the fusion of carpels. So if there are more than one carpel, they are called as multicarpellary. So if there are two carpel, there is two possibility. And either that those carpels they are free. For example, this one. Here there is three carpels, 1, 2 and 3, and they are all free. So this condition is called as Apocarpous condition, and for example this is seen in lotus. Then we have another condition when these carpels they are fused. This is a stigma style, and down you can see in the ovary portion they are all fused. So this condition is called as Syncarpous, and this is seen in, for example, in mustard and China rose. Then if the carpels they are fused, then we need to understand another important thing, that is called as the locules in ovary. So if there is more than one carpel, multicarpellary condition, and if it is a Syncarpous condition, means here the carpels they are fused. Okay, so what is basically the locule is? Basically locule is the chamber that is formed inside the ovary. Okay, so for example, and the locules in the ovary, it depends on the septa formation and number of carpels that are fused. Okay, so how many carpels they are fused, and if there is a septa that is like if two carpels they are fused, so if there is any separation, there is any septa has formed to create an individual chamber or not, that determines the locules in ovary. For example, this is a condition where there is tricarpellary Syncarpous, means there are three carpels, okay, they are fused, and now you have to decide how many locules are there. Okay, so see, if there is one locule, we call it as monolocular. If there is two, we call it as di or bilocular. If there is three, we call it as tri, and so on. We call it as multilocular. Okay, so here there is a tricarpellary Syncarpous ovary, but since there is no septa is created, there is only a single locule. Okay, so here the locule number is 1, so it is monolocular condition. But here, because a septa has created, septa is formed, so there are three locules, 1, 2 and 3. So here the locules are 3, so it is a trilocular condition. So remember, the number of locules in the ovary is majorly determined by the septa formation and then on the number of carpels that are fused. Okay, it is not necessary that a tricarpellary Syncarpous will always be a trilocular. It can be a monolocular if the septa hasn't formed. Okay, another important thing that I told you, that if the carpels they are free, we call it as Apocarpous. If they are fused, it is called as Syncarpous. So now I will be telling you the different types of ovary based on the position with respect to the other floral parts. So now we'll talk about the position of ovary. Position of ovary means with respect to the other floral parts. Okay, position of ovary with respect to other floral parts. Other floral parts means with respect to the calyx, corolla and stamen. This is the thalamus. So I'll label it in one and the rest you will understand. So this is your thalamus. calyx, corolla, and this is the stamen. So based on the position with respect to the other floral parts, the ovary can be, there can be three different type of flower: a hypogynous, perigynous and epigynous. What are these? So when the ovary, so this is the center one, the carpel, okay, this is the center carpel. So when the ovary is superior with respect to the calyx, corolla and stamen, okay, it is superior in position with respect to the calyx, corolla and stamen, it is called as the hypogynous flower, okay. So here the ovary is superior, so this condition is called as hypogynous. So here the ovary is superior, remember this. Then we have another condition called as perigynous. So remember first thing, this is called as the thalamus. So when the thalamus, it forms a cup shaped structure, this you can see from here till here. So here the thalamus is forming a cup shaped structure. So when the thalamus forms a cup shaped structure, it is called as hypanthium, okay, this is called as hypanthium. So in perigynous condition, the ovary is half superior, okay, it is not inferior. Remember, in perigynous the ovary is not inferior, but it is half superior, half inferior. That means that here the ovary, it is not fused with the hypanthium, rather it is present at the center of it, okay, and the rest. So here the ovary, it is half superior. The example is rose, okay. Then we have another condition called as the epigynous flower. Epigynous means here this is your hypanthium which has formed a complete cup shaped structure, and the ovary, this ovary, it is completely fused with hypanthium, and because of which here the ovary is inferior. So such a condition, ovary is inferior with respect to the other floral part. This is clearly visible in the figure also. You can see the other floral parts like the calyx, corolla and the stamen, they are all above the carpel, okay. So such a condition is called as epigynous. This is seen in guava and cucumber, okay. So we'll revise this once again. There are different positions of ovary with respect to the other floral parts. We have three different type of flowers: hypogynous, perigynous and epigynous. So hypogynous is when the ovary, it is superior with respect to calyx, corolla and stamen, okay. This condition is seen in mustard. Then we have a perigynous flower. Perigynous. So first, when the thalamus forms a cup shaped structure, we call that as hypanthium. So when the ovary, it is present in the center of the hypanthium and it is half superior to the other floral part, that is the calyx, corolla and stamen, it is called as perigynous, for example in rose. Then we have the last epigynous flower, where the ovary, it is fused with the hypanthium at the center and it is inferior with respect to the calyx, corolla and stamen, and the example is guava and cucumber. So in the next part, I will be telling you about the different types of placentation. So inside the ovary, we have the ovules, okay, and the ovules are attached to the ovary through a tissue which is called as placenta. So the arrangement, based on the arrangement of ovules within an ovary, there are different type of placentation. So we'll talk about that. So here I have made the different types of placentation. First understand, or I'll repeat. So ovary, after fertilization, it forms the fruit. Inside the ovary, we have the ovules. These structures, these dark colored blue structures that you are seeing is the ovules. So inside the ovary, we have the ovules. So the tissue via which the ovule is attached to the ovary, this, it is called as placenta. Okay, so the arrangement of ovules within the ovary is called as placentation. Arrangement of ovules within the ovary is called placentation. And with that, we have different types of placentation, different types of arrangement of ovules. Okay, first we'll start with the marginal placentation. So it's very simple. Marginal means here the ovules. So remember this round structure at the top is called as the ovule, and this stalk through which it is attached to the ovary wall, it is called as the placenta. Okay, so marginal means here the ovule is present on the margins of the ovary. So this generally occurs in, for example, in pea. So what happens here, the ovary, it folds like a leaf. So here the ovary folds like a leaf. So where it fuses, the ovary wall, it fuses, at that margin the ovules are present. Okay, so here the ovules are present in that margin, so it is called as the marginal placentation. The next we have is axile placentation. Axile means here the ovules are present at the central axis. This will be the central axis. So this condition will generally happen where there is for example, in this figure you can see it is a trilocular condition, tricarpillary syncarpous. So there are three carpels that are fused, and if you can clearly see, because of the septa, there are three locules are, because of this septa, the locules are created. Okay, so remember here in axile placentation, the locules are formed because of the septa, and the ovules are present at the central axis. So that is the axile placentation. The example is tomato, China rose and lemon. Then we have the parietal placentation. Parietal means, you can remember it as, here the ovules are present at the periphery. So the ovules are present at the periphery of the ovary wall. This is your ovary wall, and it is present at the periphery. Okay, so here there is no septa hasn't formed. So this is a single locule. Okay, so there is a single locule and the ovules are present in the periphery. So the example is mustard and argemone. Then we have another placentation called as the free central. So here the ovules are present again at the central axis, but since there is no septa has created, there is again a single locule. So the difference between free central and axile is that in both, okay, the ovules are present at the central axis, But in Axile, because of the septa has created, there are different locules. But in free central, since there is no septa, there is a single locule and ovules are present at the central. So the example is dianthus or primrose. And we have the last one, it is the basal placentation, the simplest one. This will occur generally in the monocarpellary. There is a single carpel and the ovule is present at the base. So this is your ovule and this is the locule. So there is a single locule. So basal, it is the simplest one. There is a single ovule which is present at the base, okay, and the example is marigold or sunflower. So with this, I have covered in today's lecture, I have covered the structure of gynoecium, the locules in the ovary, the position of ovary with respect to the other floral parts, and the types of placentation. So in the next lecture, I will be talking about the process of megasporogenesis, the development of embryo sac, or it is also called as the megagametogenesis. So the next lecture is also very important as a lot of NEET questions are being asked from that topic. So again, I will emphasize that if you are somebody who is preparing for the NEET exam or preparing for your class 12th board, I really want you all to subscribe to my channel because I will be following the NCERT line by line. So if you like my video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.